Italy and I do not beg. That's what Giorgia Meloni said to Donald Trump's face in public after he claimed she begged him for a photo. The last European leader still trying to make the Trump administration relationship work just told him to mind his own business.
And here's what makes it sting. Meloni wasn't outside the Trump tent throwing tomatoes. She was inside it, holding up a pole. She was the only European leader at his 2025 inauguration, the one who sold herself as the bridge between Washington and Europe.
So when even Giorgia Meloni says Italy and I do not beg, this is more than another Trump feud. This is an ally realizing that loyalty does not buy respect. It only makes you available for the next public humiliation.
And frankly, more leaders should answer Trump this way. Not with a playground insult and not with 20 pages of statements that say almost nothing, but they should correct the lie, defend your country, draw the boundary, and then move on.
Yeah, this all started at the G7 summit in France. A European diplomatic source said Meloni was one of the leaders pushing Trump hardest inside the meetings. Then, Trump went on Italian television and described the same encounter as if she had spent the summit chasing him for a souvenir photo.
He said she had begged him for a picture, that he did not have to speak to her, and that he only agreed because he felt sorry for her. A meeting between two national leaders somehow had to be retold as a story about Donald Trump being desired. Heck, even diplomacy has become an episode of Everybody Wants Me.
Meloni said the story was completely fabricated. She also said Trump often seems more restrained with America's adversaries than with its allies. I agree with her there. Then came the line that traveled around the world. Italy and I do not beg.
And Italy's foreign minister did more than release an angry statement. Antonio Tajani canceled a planned trip to the United States, and the Business and Science Forum connected to it was canceled as well. That's where the social media drama became a real diplomatic problem.
Trump could have let it go, which meant he immediately did the exact opposite of that. He repeated the claim again, initially misspelled Meloni's name, questioned her popularity, and attacked Italy for restricting American use of military facilities during the Iran war.
So Meloni's second answer was sharper because it didn't wander at all. She said her support depends on defending Italy's national interest, not on Trump. Then she told him, my popularity is none of your concern, and I suggest you focus on yours.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Snap.
Pooch. Drop mic there. Now you can see the irony here is doing most of the work. Trump attacked Meloni's numbers while her party was leading Italian polls. And then his own approval rating was only sitting at 36%, near the lowest level of his political career. He wandered into a polling argument carrying a very small umbrella, like something else small he has.
But the bigger story is, besides the fact that 36% of Americans still support Trump, is not who won the insult exchange. Meloni was supposed to be the European leader that Trump could work with. She shared some of his politics and invested real political capital in being the bridge between his White House and Europe.
That bridge is now smoking and on fire because Trump could not resist turning a normal conversation into a dominant story. Somebody has to beg, somebody has to be grateful, and somebody has to be reminded that America pays the bills and therefore makes the rules.
Now, that may sound powerful at a Trump rally, but it's poison inside an alliance. An ally is not an employee, and a military agreement is not a deed of ownership. The moment partnership becomes obedience, the other leader has to prove to citizens at home that their country still has a spine.
And that is exactly what was happening over American use of bases in Italy. The United States has access under agreements, but it cannot use Italian territory for any operation it chooses without Italian approval. Italy said offensive operations required parliamentary backing because Italy is a sovereign country with its own laws.
To put that in ordinary terms so Trump can understand it, giving a trusted neighbor a key to your house while you're away does not make the neighbor the homeowner. They do not get to renovate the kitchen and then call you ungrateful when you object.
And here is the part world leaders still seem afraid to test for some reason. A surprising amount of Trump's power comes from everyone behaving as though every insult, threat, and invented story must be treated with solemn respect. When leaders rush to flatter him privately, they strengthen the performance.
Okay, to be fair, he's still the president of the United States, so no government can simply block his number and get on with his day. He controls enormous military, economic, and diplomatic power, but dealing with the office is not the same thing as feeding Donald Trump's ego.
Why are Democratic leaders acting intimidated by a man convicted on 34 felony counts and found civilly liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll? The office requires diplomacy. That record does not require submission. Too often, shameless behavior gets mistaken for strength because everyone else becomes nervous and polite around it.
And Trump's method works best when he can deal with countries one at a time. He threatens one leader, one tariff, or one agreement, and then waits for that government to come to Washington alone and ask for relief. If Canada, Europe, and other allies answer together, calmly, publicly, and without groveling, he loses much of his ability to isolate them and play them against one another.
Meloni did not erase American power with an Instagram post here. What she did was puncture the illusion that Trump alone gets to define what happened and everybody else must politely live inside his crazy version of reality. Once one leader refuses that arrangement, then the next leader has more room to do the same, and we hope that happens.
And that may be the real lesson here. The world has to deal with the American president, but it doesn't have to indulge a little baby man. You can respect the office, defend the facts, coordinate with allies, and make every threat carry a cost. Because a bully looks powerful in a silent room and much smaller when the room starts to answer back.
And Canadians should pay close attention here. We have deep military, trade, and intelligence ties with the U.S., but cooperation is not surrender. Those arrangements depend on consent, rules, and mutual benefit, not permanent obedience.
So when Trump says the United States protects an ally, there's usually an invoice hidden inside that sentence. The implication is that protection cancels sovereignty. So Meloni's answer was simple. Agreements matter. But Italy decides what happens on Italian soil, and friendship doesn't erase the Constitution.
This is why her response is larger than one ugly exchange on social media. She did not merely defend herself, she rejected the idea that smaller allies must accept this kind of humiliation as the price of American protection.
And that idea is wearing thin across the democratic world. Trump can dismiss criticism from liberal leaders as ideology or blame bureaucrats, Europe, Canada, and the media. But Meloni removes that excuse because she was one of the people most willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
So when a political friend says being close to you has become a liability, other leaders, they start to take notice. They learn that flattering Trump does not produce stability, and loyalty does not protect them. Closeness may simply give him more material for the next story about who begged him for what.
And that changes behavior. First, the calls become shorter. Then a minister cancels a visit. Governments coordinate without Washington, and companies wonder whether a contract or supply chain is safer elsewhere. Alliances rarely collapse with one announcement. They thin out through many decisions to stop relying on the one unreliable partner.
And ordinary people eventually pay for that. When governments duplicate defense systems, reroute supply chains, or answer tariffs, the costs show up in taxes, prices, and jobs.
So yes, this is personal, but it's also structural. Trump treats international relationships like a television show where the goal is to make every other person look smaller. The trouble is that national leaders have voters too, and eventually standing up to Trump becomes better politics than standing beside him.
And that may be why so many people are turning on him. Not because every leader suddenly agrees on policy, and not because the world has become one happy family. They are reaching the same practical conclusion together. Public submission to Trump brings plenty of risk and almost no protection or benefit at home.
Giorgia Meloni is the clearest example because she was supposed to be the exception. She was the friendly face and ideological ally. If even she is now saying essentially, enough, mind your own business, the group still willing to flatter him is getting very small.
And her method is worth copying, too. She corrected the false claim, defended the legal limits on American power in Italy, reminded Trump that her duty is to Italians, and ended with a sentence short enough that even he could not misunderstand it.
And that's how Canada should speak too. Calmly, directly, and without the nervous need to reassure Trump every third sentence that he is wonderful. We can cooperate where it serves Canadians, say no where it doesn't, and stop acting as though basic self-respect is aggression.
Endless accommodation is not diplomacy. Every single time that a leader swallows another insult to preserve the relationship, Trump learns that the insult was free. Meloni finally sent him a bill.
So here's the real question, Dave. Will Carney start speaking to Trump as bluntly as Meloni just did? Or will he continue doing what has worked for him so far? Ignoring the tantrums, outclassing him on the world stage, and quietly building stronger alliances around him.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Which approach takes more power away from Trump?
And if you appreciate a Canadian view of the political madness without the ceremonial bowing and scraping, please like this video, subscribe, and give us a hype. It helps more people find the channel, and apparently, nobody had to beg for a photo.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Ciao for now.